Are you still getting triggered by the same people or the same environments, regardless of how much healing you do, regardless of how many ayahuasca retreats you go on, or plant medicine ceremonies you partake in, or books you read, or podcasts you consume? It seems like the same patterns keep coming up. This video is for you, if so. Real quick, I'm Nicole Paulus. I wrote this book, Exiting the Matrix. You can get it in the comments below. Basically, I show you, this is a practical guide from point A to point Z of how to build the life of your dreams. And all of these videos kind of touch on topics covered in the book and just like my personal insights of kind of breaking free from the matrix, the actual physical matrix of the 9-to-5 capitalist grind, but also the mental matrix of what's truly important and what makes you happy. So part of that is kind of discovering like your triggers, right? Your shadows. If you don't look at the shadows, if you don't entertain what's in the dark, then you're never going to know what's the light. You're never going to know like how much joy you can actually achieve. And so, yeah, if you keep getting triggered, it's probably super frustrating because you're probably consuming so much and you're probably just like doubling down your efforts. And it just, maybe it's not working. Maybe it's just like a specific person that just keeps triggering you in your family, or maybe a past partner or a friend, or maybe it's certain environments that trigger you. So I'm going to give you an example. Basically, the reason you're getting triggered is because you haven't integrated the healed version with those old versions. So if you think about your life, like we all have all these different timelines. Like you have all these different paths. Let's say you can follow. You can follow, your ex into oblivion. You can move to a different country. You can stay at the same job. So you have all these different paths, kind of, and they're all different versions of yourself, like that would have their own lessons on that path. But if you don't, like, if you're growing and you're sort of like on this spiritual path, this enlightenment path, but you don't integrate the old timelines, the old versions of self, anytime you go back to an environment where your old version of self would be in, you're going to get triggered. So let me give you an example. I used to love to drink. Like drinking was like one of my favorite activities. Like everyone knew in my friend circle that you couldn't plan like a brunch with me on the weekend because I would never wake up in time. I would never put myself through that stress. Like I knew that on the weekends I was going to get hammered. And my life revolved around drinking. Like I spent so much time, effort, and money. I loved traveling, but I was always like thinking about where to get, my box of wine and I was a fun drunk. So I wasn't like a depressive, sad drunk. I was like life of the party. I was dancing on tables. I was speaking my mind. I was in the present moment, weirdly enough. Like alcohol for me made me feel very present. I'm a lot in my mind. I'm a lot, I'm a Gemini moon, Gemini sun. So I'm like an overthinker. And so alcohol made me feel like in the moment and feel really, really powerful. So alcohol is going to be different for everyone. This may not be your story, but this is an example I can give you of how I was able to integrate that old version of self into my healed version of self. And now I don't care about alcohol at all. Like personally, I don't like being around drunk people in general. Now they annoy me, and I'm sure I was super annoying in that period of my life. But I don't care. Like it's not that I have this like superior feeling about alcohol. Like I don't drink. Oh, you drink. Oh, you're low vibration. Like people are all on their same paths. And again, people drink for different reasons. So it activates a certain version, depending on who you are, a certain version of self. For me, that was a more confident, loud, outspoken, present person. And as an introverted, like shy kid who grew up in a not very emotionally mature environment, didn't have a lot of like emotionally mature models, that was like my maladaptive behavior. That was how I could like access that version of self, because I didn't have the kind of upbringing, which most of us don't have this like ideal upbringing to bring that out naturally. So I had to find another source. So alcohol was my source. So, and it did me a lot of good because it allowed me to activate a different state of consciousness. It allowed me to activate this other version of self. Well, now in my life, my present life, I don't need alcohol, because what I realized was that everything that alcohol was activating within me was in me. It's not that it was giving me some kind of superpower. It was already in me, and I didn't actually need it to be that other version of self. I could just be her. And there's other things that could, probably boost that confidence, like maybe surfing. For me, it's surfing, getting better at, taking care of my body. Like there's other things that sort of activate that confidence, that I know now that are like healthier tools and healthier, um, behaviors. But at the time, that was what I had. So how do you integrate this into your life? How do you integrate this knowledge? How do you take your trigger and make it, integrate it into your healed self? So this is just one example. So I guess a big part for me was realizing that I could access that other version of self without alcohol. And then the integration process was just kind of like practicing, like going to these environments, like still showing up as me, but like still going to the party, but just not drinking. And there was like a weird transition for me, like with friends and stuff, because all my friends were drinkers, they were heavy drinkers. So when I stopped drinking, it was kind of like, what's wrong with you, And there was some judgment and there was probably some teasing. And I just kind of pushed through the awkwardness. And I realized once, if I just got through the first like 20 minutes of whatever gathering I was at, everyone would have had like one or two drinks by then. And then it would just kind of flow like it normally would, because everyone else's insecurities would be lowered. And then I could just drink my water. I could, drink my bubbly water with lime. Like, and there really wasn't a lot of difference. It's just that I went home earlier and I woke up without a hangover. So it was like win-win-win all around for me. But there was an awkward transition period. And now I don't think about it at all. Like if I'm in an environment and like people are drinking, kudos to them. If someone asks me if I want to drink, I don't even hesitate. I'm like, no, I'm good. Like it's not even something it's not something I feel like I'm missing out on. It's just that it's not part of my life anymore. And I truly believe that's because I was able to put my healed version in those kind of triggering environments and just kind of like play with it. I allowed myself a grace period of awkwardness, of of transition, and just kept like kind of pushing the envelope, I guess. So this can apply obviously for you if alcohol is if you are triggered by alcohol and you're like a spiritual person on this spiritual path and you still find yourself sort of reverting to old habits and old patterns. But this also applies to, versions of self, and I'll get into another video, but this also applies when you are like at home for the holidays or you're just around your family. And I haven't lived around family in 10 years, so I see them about once a year. So I'm sure it's very difficult for family members to see you as a different version of self because they know you as like the little kid who was like shy in the corner and couldn't ask for her own glass of water. And now I'm there and I'm like, this like fully embodied woman. It's probably very confusing. And so what I realized this last time going back home is that, this is an ongoing process, right? So I feel like now when I go back home again, it's going to be even better. But this last time I was able to put some distance in between that old version of self and that new version of self. I haven't quite yet integrated it, but it's coming. So the next time I'm at home, I'm excited actually to show up as my healed self in all scenarios, right? In all the drama and all the, maybe the emotional immaturity, I'm there as me instead of compartmentalizing. So I think the last few years, what I've done, because I have lived abroad, I don't have to be around my family all the time. I've really compartmentalized. Like when I go back, I'm like my healed version when I'm alone or with my friends. But when I'm with my family, I kind of maybe go into like a sedative sedation state. I don't know. I kind of withdraw. And I think that's come across as like being maybe judgmental or maybe not wanting to actually be there. So that's the transition period. So now I'm really looking forward to going back and just showing up as my healed self with my boundaries, but with intentionality and say, these are the dates I'm available. Here's when you can come see me. I would love to see you, kind of that reassurance of like, I'm here because I want to see you. I want to maintain these relationships, instead of kind of having these two versions of self that are kind of dancing side by side. So if this speaks to you, if this I don't know if any of this resonates with you, I would love to hear what you're struggling with, what your trigger is. And if there's any way I can be of service to you or just offer some insights or brainstorming or, please do that. I will answer any comments in the comments below. And also I'm offering a $47 45-minute session where we can just talk like we can just riff off of each other and I can help you brainstorm like a path forward for how to kind of move through, or how to integrate the trigger into your healed version of self, because it's so important. It's something that we don't really talk about as like people who are on like a spiritual journey or a spiritual path, who are cycle breakers, breaking generational traumas and all of these things. Yeah, I feel like there's not enough support. So if this calls to you, please like, subscribe. There's gonna be more videos like this, I promise. And yeah, make sure you get my book. It's all there. Bye.